Thank you for joining us today at the Maritime Career Fair as part of the Pacific Marine Expo OnLine. My name is Sarah Shearer. I am the Maritime and Manufacturing Advocate for the Office of Economic Development with the City of Seattle. It's a long title. And I am the current president of the Seattle Propeller Club. The Seattle Propeller Club is our city's largest maritime organization and represents all aspects of the maritime industry, including workboats, fishing industry, passenger vessels, recreation, etc. We are proud to join in presenting this career fair this morning with the Port of Seattle, King County Maritime, Seafood 101, the Seafood 101's industry partners, supporting organizations like Maritime or Washington Maritime Blue, Youth Maritime Collaborative and their members, Seattle Marine Business Coalition, North Seattle Industrial Association, the Marine Manufacturing and Technology Center of Excellence with Skagit Valley College, National Fisherman Magazine, and the Pacific Marine Expo. So today's workshop, is all about showcasing amazing careers in the maritime and fishing industry. Did you know that the average salary of in the maritime industry is more than $20,000 above the average wage in Washington? I mean, come on. We have 10 terrific speakers who will share with you their incredible diversity of at-sea and shoreside careers and maybe some sea stories. You'll hear about high-tech aspects of the industry, its passion for the environmental sustainability, and the commitment to family wage jobs. Learn about these skills and training needed to be successful in the industry. So we're going to get right into it. First on our program are some keynotes remarks by Delmas Whitaker from the Port of Seattle. Delmas is the manager fishing and commercial vessels at Fisherman's Terminal in Interbay. He's an awesome guy. He's a veteran, and I'm sure he'll tell you his story. But Delmas, we're so glad to have you. Thank you for joining us today.
Okay, hey Sarah, thank you very much. I really do appreciate that introduction. I guess I can't bring up the my video, so I'll let you guys handle that. Good morning, Maritime community. I'm extremely honored to share this platform with you today. As noted, I'm currently serving as the Senior Manager for Fishing and Commercial Services for the Port of Seattle. Prior to joining the Port of Seattle, I had the privilege of serving in the United States Navy for 25 years. With that being said, I never had the pleasure of serving at sea on a fishing vessel or a workboat. However, I spent nearly 14 years at sea on various ships and in various capacities. I am charged with oversight and management of Fisherman's Terminal, which is the Port of Seattle's oldest property and home of the North Pacific fishing fleet. My team and I help to support many of the vessels and businesses that are responsible for about 13% of the harvested domestic catch and approximately $455 million in gross earnings. I am extremely proud to be a part of this industry. In this role, I've gained a healthy respect for the thousands of men and women who fish and work the pristine waters circling the Alaska coastline. So I want to take some time to share with you a little bit about my journey and how it began and how I came into the maritime industry. As I share this story, though, I think that you'll find that although I chose a path of the military service, we have a lot of things in common. You know, I started as a 17-year-old high school graduate, just wrapping up my senior year in high school. As each day kind of passed, the transformation from student to adult was becoming more apparent. I was an average student, middle of the road athlete, but hey, I was an all around good guy. So I applied to a university in Portland to run on their track team, but to make a long story short, it didn't happen. There were no vacancies, and they wanted me to be a walk-on. But my mom told me, son, you're a grown man now. You have choices. Go to school, or the government has 5 other choices: Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, or Coast Guard. You choose. I don't raise men. Nonetheless, I found a sense of urgency to come up with a quick life plan. My brother joined the Navy about 4 years before I did, and while on deployment, he called from Subic Bay, the Philippines, to check in. And after a brief conversation and a heart-to-heart discussion, decided to join the Navy. To be honest, I never considered a career in military service, but it didn't sound too bad. So I grabbed 2 friends, went to the recruiter's office, started a conversation. Now, the next part of this story is going to be hard to believe, but it happened. The recruiter was a little short-handed, and it would take a few days to process my paperwork. Well, I thought that was unacceptable. So, because I was sure that I would walk out the office if we didn't finish this and change my mind if we didn't finish this transaction. So my 2 friends and I, we took typing in high school, so we helped our recruiters and we typed our own agreements. So fast forwarding, went through boot camp, apprenticeship training to learn some of those necessary skills to be on a ship. Basic ship handling skills. And we were sent to our first assignment, which was on board the USS Kitty Hawk, an aircraft carrier. As a newly branded enlisted sailor, I was sent to the ship's armory to serve and strike as a gunner's mate. In addition to my duties to maintain and preserve all small arms, weapons, and ammunition, I continued to learn things like basic seamanship skills, firefighting, damage control procedures, and last but not least, I learned how to properly clean and polish brass. Yes, as a junior sailor on board an active warship, you will find yourself spending a lot of time keeping spaces clean and well cared for daily. Why? Because we have to make sure the ship is healthy and we're able to complete our mission. During this period of time, I had the pleasure of being on my first deployment. This was during the Cold War, so since the Kitty Hawk was a West Coast carrier, we spent a lot of time seeing beautiful far off ports and floating around the Pacific, Southeast Asia, and Indian Ocean. For days, weeks, we floated around protecting the international shipping lanes and displaying 80,000 tons of American diplomacy. Additionally, I had the unique opportunity to visit different ports of calls. I said Hawaii, Australia, Korea, you name it. Most notably, my deployment, the United States and Russia, formerly the USSR, were constantly monitoring each other's movements. Unfortunately, one night, a submarine decided to surface and find the carrier. Well, they found it. We ran over it. Yes, we ran over a Russian sub. To my knowledge, no one was killed or seriously injured. We offered assistance, but the Russians had felt that we had done enough. That day, I learned a new phrase: international incident. We continued our mission. We all are fully aware of the possibility of combat and accept the responsibility to keep your ship in the fight. That brush with the Russian sub made things kind of real for me. After my first enlistment, I had felt that I kind of had gained the confidence and the know-how to take on the world. Well, unfortunately, the world had a different opinion. I found it difficult to find employment, and that was employment that I enjoyed. And the outside world kind of seemed a little less disciplined to me. I took this opportunity to reach out to two amazing people in the service that I respected for advice and mentorship. They helped me formulate a long-term plan, and in less than 12 months, I was back in the Navy. Now, I want to emphasize that plan was simple. Earn a commission. As a person of color, I didn't see many people that looked like me with scrambled eggs on their covers or CEOs of ships. However, I had great mentors that were committed to helping me achieve my goals and earn this opportunity. I knew that it would take commitment, dedication, and sacrifice. So for over 6 years, I served in several challenging assignments, including assignments to shore intermediate maintenance facilities, deployments during Desert Storm, and I served as a battle damage assessment team member and priority placement as a physical security officer or a military police officer. I was soon promoted to the rank of Chief Petty Officer and assigned to Yokosuka, Japan. Soon after that assignment, I was selected to Limited Duty Officer. I had made it. I routinely credit my Navy experience with allowing me to have challenging assignments in and out of my designated field. At one time, I was responsible for the immediate maintenance and upkeep of the world's second largest inventory of lightweight torpedoes. Never a dull moment. I also earned the trust and confidence of the commanding officer of the USS Abraham Lincoln, another aircraft carrier, where I served as the underway officer of the deck. When on watch, I was responsible for the safe navigation and overall operations of the vessel. There are many other stories and achievements, and including failures, that were encapsulated in that 25 years. Those will need to be shared on another occasion. I would like to discuss those things that I said earlier of what we had in common. One, I had a high school education. I didn't earn my degree until I came into the Port of Seattle. I had no prior aspirations of joining the military. That was just by happenstance. I was searching for a career, and I had a desire to do better. Over the past 3 years, I've visited Alaska several times and observed the fishing industry in action. The industry has the opportunity for those who desire to do better and the willingness to put in the work. I encourage the maritime community to continue your efforts to focus on outreach in those communities, specifically communities of colors, to drive interest in this industry. They need to know they're welcome in this industry because it is an essential industry. If fishing doesn't appeal to you, the maritime industry has many respectful living wage jobs and trades to consider. Just ask yourself, what do you enjoy doing? Make a plan, keep it simple, and do it. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the King County Maritime, the Seattle Propeller Club, and the port for allowing me to be here today. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Sarah.
Thanks, Delmas. You can actually turn on your screen so people can see your lovely face. There you go.
Yeah, sorry, I kept getting that little warning, so it wouldn't let me do it first, but thank you.
That's all right. Well, and you typed up your own paperwork when you, I mean, way to take initiative when you go into the recruiter.
Yeah, I was just afraid I was going to walk out.
Yeah, and I love the new goatee.
Thank you. It's growing on me.
Well, thank you, Delmas. I love hearing you talk about your career in the Navy and then following up the Navy and being involved in the maritime industry. And I know the fishing industry loves working with you and having you support them. So thank you for all you do in the industry. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I would like to introduce our first panelist, who is Christian Yuri. He's the general manager of Fisherman's Finest Industry. Welcome, Christian. Oh, you're on mute. There you go. There we go. Hi.
Good morning. Thank you very much for that nice introduction, and thank you to the Propeller Club, which I'm a member of, for hosting this, and Ken for all you do to keep industry together.
So tell us a little bit about what is Fisherman's Finest.
Fisherman's Finest is a Washington state-based commercial fishing company that operates 3 H&G headed and gutted factory trawlers in the waters off of Alaska. Our headquarters are in Kirkland. We operate out of Fisherman's Terminal, Pier 99 or Terminal 91, up in Anacortes at Dakota Creek Shipyard or the Curtis Wharf, while doing our annual maintenance each year from say December to the middle of January. And then the rest of the year we fish 75% of the time out of Dutch Harbor, Alaska, and about 25% of the time out of Kodiak, Alaska. These vessels operate as part of the Amendment 80 fleet of fishing vessels that participate under the Fishery Management Plan of the North Pacific Fisheries Management Council. We believe that the responsible fishery management is essential for the health of our fisheries, coastal communities, and is critical to ensure the future supply of quality fish for consumers around the world. We are on the forefront of fishing vessel renewal and innovation with our latest addition to the fleet, America's Finest. She was delivered February 6th of 2019 by Dakota Creek Shipyard in Anacortes. She's 262 feet or 80 meters in length, has a crew of 50 people, and has reduced our fuel consumption by up to 60% and is leading our way towards a carbon neutral operation. Our other 2 vessels, the America No. 1 was built in 1979 at Marco Shipyard in Ballard, which is no longer. She's really the pride of the fleet. Very honored to be associated with that vessel. Senator Magnuson is at the christening of that vessel, and of the Magnuson Act, said this vessel marks the beginning of the end of foreign vessels in U.S. waters, and she's really lived up to that. She's been going strong since '79 and is 42 years old, 41 years old this year, I believe, and has a maximum crew of 39 people, including 2 federal observers. She's a trawl catcher processor. We catch the fish with the net, we pull it up aboard, the crew process the fish into a primary form, headed and gutted and frozen into 20-kilo blocks, and then offloaded either in Dutch Harbor or Kodiak, Alaska, to go to market. The U.S. Intrepid is our 3rd vessel. She's a converted oil supply ship. That vessel came on board in 1997, although she was converted in '86. I'm very thankful to that vessel, because that's the vessel that really cemented my position in the company. I was hired in August of 1997. I've done a little bit of everything. I started out as assistant to the CEO and COO of the company. And over the 24 years that I've been there, I've worked my way up to general manager of the company. I'm very bullish on the fishing industry. It's a great industry for young people who might not know what direction they want to go in, but have a good work ethic and a good attitude, and you can go a long way and have a very nice living working in the fishing industry. Before I go too far, let me just add this one thing, then I'll let you shoot at me. Fishermansfinest.com, fishfinest.com. Remember that. Either Fish Finest or Fishermen's, MENS, plural, finest.com. right on the front page of our website, there's a button to click if you would like to apply for a job with us. And I will go into our employment opportunities and our crew, and we pride ourselves on the longevity of a workforce and a more transient workforce. We've got crew that have worked here 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 35 years and more, starting out as processors and working their way up to captains and engineers. And we have a career path program that our president, Dennis Moran, has put into place that can help people go from the very bottom to the very top in the industry. So Sarah, I apologize, jump in.
That's okay. I just wanted to, one of the things I wanted to highlight is people, I don't think, realize that, you know, the fisheries, that a lot of the fishing vessels are home ported out of Seattle, and they fish in Alaska, and that fisheries is one of the most well-managed fisheries in the world. And they just don't realize that. So that's
correct. And Ms. Park, our CEO, always harps on it to us that we have to be good stewards of the resources. And we're thankful that the North Pacific Fishery Management Council bases the management of the fisheries on science. And our fisheries are strong, they're well maintained, well managed, and will be here for generations to come. Our goal at Fisherman's Finest is to produce as much protein to feed people around the world and put as little carbon as possible into the atmosphere. And that's why we're investing heavily in new fishing vessels. The average age of fishing boats in the United States is 38 plus years old. You can imagine an automobile that's 38 years old and the efficiencies of an automobile from then compared to an automobile of today. Yeah. That is where we're going. We have the one new vessel. The goal is to get a second new vessel in the future, built in the state of Washington, so that we invest into the local economy and then bring that standard of living or that standard of working conditions to all our crew to be on the new state-of-the-art vessels like America's Finest. That's right on the front page of our website. And if you take a look at it, she's a work boat, but she looks like a cruise ship, and she's truly a state-of-the-art vessel.
So if somebody were looking for a job with Fisherman's Finest, what are the generalized skills that people would need? Like, who are you looking for? If a young person comes in or somebody wants to shift careers, what are the attributes that you're looking for in a really good worker?
Well, first and foremost, a good shipmate, a good attitude, a good work ethic. I had a question here pop up on the screen about work or life aboard the boats. This is not easy work. It is very hard work. And maybe I should just give a 2-minute overview of how I got here and explain to it from my perspective, the job, how I see it. And I said earlier that I'm very bullish on this industry. It's a great opportunity. I'm a lifelong fisherman. I went to sea from the time I was 4 years old in a fishing family until I was 29 years old when I got this job. I was hired by Ms. Park, and I've been chained to a desk ever since. Between those dates, I fished primarily crab, Opelio king, tanner crab, and then factory trawlers, Arctic trawler, and in the Bering Sea and Gulf of Alaska. And then I've managed freezer longliner. So I have a really good perspective of all the various industries. Only fishery I haven't participated in is the salmon industry in Alaska, although my father and my brothers have. To be hired by us, we're just looking for a good, solid person with a good background. You apply online. During the pandemic, we're doing Zoom interviews. It's very easy to get an interview with me. I do all the interviewing of our crew during the pandemic. Go online, click on the button there, and quickly, I know I've got just a minute or two. Life aboard the boat, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, we're processing fish. Our trips last from 7 to 10 days, 2 weeks at the most. And you work in 8-hour shifts. You're on for 8 hours. You have a meal break for a half hour. You work for another 8 hours. Have another break for a meal. Take a shower. Go to bed. Start all over again. Time flies when you're having fun, as they say, and time truly flies when you're processing or harvesting fish in the Bering Sea and Gulf of Alaska.
What kind of fish do you fish for?
We're a multi-species ground fish fishery. Primarily, our target species is yellowfin sole, but there is also, I mean, we do 22 different species of fish in a year's time. So yellowfin sole, codfish, rockfish, all headed and gutted and frozen into 20 kilo, excuse me, roughly 50-pound blocks of fish. We bring in, we harvest about 80,000 meal portions a day per vessel. So this is a big operation.
Yeah. So just real quickly in the last minute, list off some of the different jobs that are available.
Oh yeah, I didn't get a chance. 10 minutes flies by. So we have two career paths. Everybody starts as a processor, and you work your way up from there. Career path towards the engine room, which goes from processor either to deck or to oiler or assistant in the engine room, and then towards licensing through classes through the Seattle Maritime Academy or Crawford's Nautical. That's all covered in our program that our president has put in place. Secondly, we have the career path to the wheelhouse. And I'll be very honest with you, everybody wants to go towards the wheelhouse. There's a lot more opportunity to advance going towards the engine room. The average age of an engineer in the industry is in the 60s, and there's going to be a great need for additional young engineers to come into the fisheries. So processor to deck to mate through schooling, and then mate towards captain with sea time and education. That we can help you, and we have a program in place that you just connect the dots, A, B, C, D, and move you up through the company. One really quick example of promoting from within, and a guy, Aaron Moore, captain on the American No. 1 and now U.S. Intrepid as well, started out as a processor aboard the American No. 1 in 1986. Ms. Park hired him as a processor. He's worked his way up through the company from the very bottom, and he is today a captain aboard our fleet. Has been here ever since. So there's not many companies that can say that. I've been here 24 years. I've raised 4 children in this company with the stability of the industry. And I truly am thankful every day to make a living in the fishing industry, the industry that I love.
Thank you, Christian. There are some questions in the chat box that you can probably answer in a little while. I'm gonna thank you so much for talking about Fisherman's Finest and all the jobs and your career. We really appreciate it, and there's lots of great.
If there's questions, perhaps after the presentation, I can get those. I don't see that, but I'm operating from an iPad here, so I don't know that but I will gladly get back to anybody. Go to the website, go to the contacts. I'm the top guy on there. My email's there, my cell phone's there. Front page of the website goes to to our application if you want to apply. Those applications come straight into my email.
All right.
Easy to find us.
Thanks, Christian.
Fishfinest.com. Don't forget it.
I put it in the chat for everybody.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So our next panelist is Lydia Binger. She is the technical manager for naval architecture of Elliott Bay Design Group. So she currently serves as the technical manager of naval architecture. She is also a mechanical engineer and holds a position on our board of directors. So tell us a little bit about what Elliott Bay Design Group does.
Sure. Thanks, Sarah. Elliott Bay Design Group is a naval architecture and marine engineering firm. We design new vessels from the very inception of the idea to the construction and through testing. We do a variety of vessels. Currently, I'm working on a new design. I'm designing a ferry boat for an East Coast ferry operator. So mostly my job is in an office setting. I write reports, I do calculations, and I'm selecting and locating equipment on the vessel inside of a 3D model that we construct. A lot of times as the design progresses and as it lands in a shipyard, like there's plenty of shipyards here in the Pacific Northwest, we'll support that through the construction. So I get to go on board the vessel and see the work that I've been doing on paper come to life. So it's really fascinating to have a theory that's going to work and then to see it apply in the real world.
That's going to be really cool to like, know that you helped design it and then just watch it.
Yeah,
come out.
absolutely. And then we've done side-by-side comparisons of our 3D model to the actual constructed vessel. And it's just cool to see that it actually worked out. And also to get the feedback from shipyards about what we can do better to support them in building the boat. I think it's really important to partner with the folks that actually are building the boat and not just sit behind a computer screen and say, oh, I know what's right. So I do that. And then additionally, in my position as a technical manager, I supervise what I would say is 7 of the best naval architects in the industry. I help them manage their careers and move up and succeed.
So tell us a little bit about like, how did you get into your career? How did you choose this? Like what was your trajectory?
Sure. I like to say that boats were a happy accident for me. I grew up in a landlocked state in Colorado, didn't spend any time on boats. I didn't grow up as a fisher, but I went to school for mechanical engineering. I know that I like to problem solve. I like to figure out how things work. And so I went to school, like I said, for mechanical engineering. And then when I graduated, I went to work for the Navy as a civilian at Puget Sound Naval Shipyard. And we did the maintenance activities for the submarines. So my introduction to boats was working for the Navy for 3 years. And then I got the opportunity to work for Elliott Bay 9 years ago. As a junior engineer, I started there, didn't have a professional engineering license yet. Definitely still needed some more education in engineering, and Elliott Bay helped me get there. So now I'm a technical manager and I'm on our board of directors.
So if someone were like, wow, that sounds awesome, I totally want to do exactly what she did, what type of skills or education would you recommend for someone following that footsteps and becoming particularly a naval architect?
First, I would recommend seeing if you can get a job shadowing opportunity, like spend a day with a naval architect, whether that's on a boat or just experiencing the office, because it's important to know what career you're going to spend that much time preparing for. It was a 4-year education, and in some cases, some student debt for some people. So make sure that's what you want to do before you go spend the money doing that. But you're going to need, in my line of work, you need a 4-year degree to be an engineer. Naval architects, they have a couple specific schools, and some of them have free tuition, actually. Webb Institute is one of them. It's a very niche market. You want to be a naval architect, you go to Webb and you don't pay tuition. But it requires a 4-year degree and ultimately a professional engineering license to be successful. So there's also the design path. We employ designers who typically have a 2-year technical degree in modeling or drafting. So that's another opportunity that's a little bit less of an education investment. But we also, I think it's really beneficial to employ people that have been working on deck plates, have experience as pipe fitters and ship fitters, and then decide, I'd like to take this to the engineering level. It's really beneficial to have that hands-on experience and then apply the technical engineering stuff later.
What's a pipe fitter?
A pipe fitter is someone who routes pipes through a boat and connects up all the machinery. So, a boat, one of the things I really like about our industry is that it's, from an engineering perspective, is I have all of these opportunities and problem solving things that you don't always get on the land side. So we have all the same systems that your houses do or your buildings do, but it's got to move. and it's got an engine on it. I do engine selection, propulsion system selection, fuel systems, toilet systems. We do all of that, but it also has to be able to move around the world, which is a little bit more complicated than a building.
Yeah, so I mean, you guys have to think about how these things can shift and the vibration and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure. We have several people in our company that do like vibration analysis. So you get into some pretty detailed finite modal analysis, FMEA, to figure out where we're going to have the most stress in the boat. And that's on a global level. This boat is going to experience extreme stress, and we need to make sure that it's going to keep the crew and the passengers safe.
So talk about your experience as a woman in this environment. How was it for you?
It's been, I mean, I got into engineering knowing that there weren't a lot of women in engineering. That's kind of, I went to an engineering specific school where the ratio of men to women was 3-to-1. So I'm kind of accustomed to it, but I don't think that it's a limitation. I've worked with many intelligent, strong women throughout my career. Elliott Bay currently employs 13 women out of our 55 some employees, which is huge. We employ a lot of female architects and female engineers. I don't think it doesn't hold me back in any way. I feel supported at Elliott Bay as no one questions my gender. It's not what drives my job.
Well, that's good to hear. So last thing, what advice would you give someone who's thinking about this career? You already said shadowing. What other things would you advise if someone was thinking about it?
Well, if you're in the high school timeframe, I would make sure you're doing well in school and applying for the schools that are going to have those opportunities, those engineering degrees. Like I said, there's specific naval architecture schools, but myself, I just went to school for basic mechanical engineering, which is available in most colleges around the United States. And the junior college route is not a challenge either. I know here in Seattle, we have some they're not junior colleges anymore, but South Seattle, I think, has a partnership with Eastern Washington to get an engineering degree in 2 to 4 years. So that would be my advice: is the school is critical for my career path.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Lydia. I really appreciate you coming. You're such a good role model for some of these young people. So I really love that you did, what I find in a lot of people's careers is they happy accident, right?
Yeah.
And you did mechanical engineering, and then we're like, oh, I got a job at this naval shipyard. So, oh, look at all this. And you just opened up.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just follow your passion, and don't always have the end in mind.
Right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And if you have additional questions for Lydia, she can probably answer those in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Bye.
All right. Up next, Francis Bersch is the Fisherman and Program Specialist for Bristol Bay Regional Seafood Development Association. So hi, Francis.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me. It's been so cool to hear from the others so far. A great collection.
So tell us about Bristol Bay Regional Seafood Development Association. What is it?
Yeah, so Bristol Bay Regional Seafood Development Association, or BBRSDA, it's a bit of a mouthful either way. But it's a fisherman-funded organization, and the goal of our organization is to maximize the value of the Bristol Bay fishery for the benefit of the fishermen. Bristol Bay is Bristol Bay, Alaska, and it's a seasonal fishery, mostly in June and July. So maximizing the value of fishery takes a lot of different forms. We have projects working on improving the quality of the product of the sockeye salmon coming out of Bristol Bay. We do a lot of work around sustainability and habitat protection, making sure that the fish have a healthy place to grow and return to. And marketing is also a big piece of what our organization does, is creating and growing the demand for super nutritious sockeye salmon in the world.
All right. That's awesome. So tell us about your job. What does your day look like?
Yeah. So it's our offices are remote, and they have been even before COVID. So just me in the office, but usually I'm promoting, making a project happen is what a lot of my day is. So whether that, an example, recently I've been working on, providing ice barges up in Bristol Bay. It's one of our quality. A lot of boats have refrigerated seawater systems on board, but some boats still rely on ice, or if your RSW breaks down, you need ice to make sure that fish is chilled and of the highest quality. So, making sure we have what's our source of ice, what vessels can carry it and make it accessible in the right areas for fishermen. So it's making calls, putting projects together, or a lot of fishermen now are, direct marketers. They sell their own fish, whether it's back here in Washington or throughout the country. So one of the projects I love working on is supporting those small businesses and helping with marketing tools and things for those people or families who are selling their own catch directly.
Awesome. Well, that sounds like, you guys do a lot of really cool things for the fishermen as well as the small businesses. So that's really great. It's funny that people don't really think about that on one of the most important jobs on a fishing vessel is making sure that the freezers and the ice makers and all that stuff work. Being a refrigeration technician is pretty important in that environment, or your whole product goes away.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the Bristol Bay boats are pretty small. They're 32 feet, so everything's really cramped in there, but you're absolutely right. You have to have all those systems working and those systems a go. And I know we have some amazing refrigeration technicians in there, and they have no shortage of work. Always need help there.
That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get into this career? I mean, why choose this?
Yeah, so my family's a fishing family, so I was born into the fishing part of it, but I've chosen to stay involved and get more involved. I feel like growing up, I took it for granted. I was like, why do we have to go out here for the summer? I want to go to summer camp or whatever. But I've really, really come to appreciate it. The lifestyle and the opportunity for so many families, Alaskan families and families from all over that fish and work up there. It means a lot to me to be able to promote the fishery and support that livelihood for so many people now.
So you started out in, you just said it, a fishing family, and do you still fish today?
I do, yeah, seasonally. Yeah, I go up in the summer. Yep, I usually fish with my dad's boat, but my sister, my mom, and my dad are all have fishing businesses in Bristol Bay.
Wow. So what do you love about fishing?
I love that it's mostly it's just being able to witness and experience the natural force of the return of salmon. That's hold a lot of reverence for the species and for just that natural system is really incredible. And also just the complete balance from the rest of my life, when whether I was a college student or working now, a lot of time is on email and computer and phone. And when you're on the fishing boat, you don't have service and your body gets really strong and you're working and sleeping by the tide. So I feel like it provides a really good balance.
Yeah, I found that as well. You get kind of in this it's a weird balance of this Zen state that you can get into, because you're you've got nothing to do but look at the beauty and work hard and sleep. And
right.
I loved it.
Yeah, it's so challenging, but in totally the opposite ways that a desk job is challenging.
Yeah, right. So tell us about some of the opportunities for women in Bristol Bay and all that.
Absolutely. I think there's more and more all the time. My generation owes a lot to the prior generations of women fishing who, it was bigger barriers, I think, to get fishing jobs years ago. So I know my generation has benefited from that. And even in, my mini slice of being a deckhand for the last 10 years or so, I feel like I've seen a big increase in women in fisheries. And I know, I wish I remembered the numbers, but I know the salmon, of all the different fisheries, the salmon fishery does have the highest percentage of women in it. I feel like there's probably several factors there, but I think captains are becoming more willing to hire women. And I think one thing that is unique about fishing is it really is more about what you're capable of than fitting any stereotype. It's not just about having big muscles and a big beard or something like that. There's a lot more to it that women can really, really bring to the boat.
I always say that women have to work smarter, not harder. Even if you're not physically as strong as maybe a man in some ways, you just have to use your tools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was the dean of Seattle Maritime Academy for a while, and one of my students was in her mid-20s. She had worked with her family and fished and ended up with a 100-ton master's license into Seattle Maritime Academy to do the engineering program, because she was like, well, when I someday take over for my father and become a captain and in charge of this vessel, like, I want to know more about how my boat works. And she ended up, she'll probably still do that someday, but she's ended up working for Western Towboat as one of their main engineers, and she's amazing, but she's bringing that skill back to her family as well, and being, pretty cool example.
Yeah, very cool. And I realize I said that captains are more willing to hire women, but a lot of captains are women
Right.
as well. That's important to know. There's a lot of women running their own boats.
So what advice would you give someone who is thinking about a career or starting a fishing company or working for a family?
Yeah, I think fishing is unique, kind of for better or for worse, that you can't submit an application online, or some you can, but small, like Bristol Bay, small family fishing businesses, usually it's more about finding someone in the industry and asking, and it kind of, people find jobs through the grapevine a little bit more. There are some great online resources which I can post in the chat, but I think my advice would be persistent. It is really hard work, and when it gets hard, your captain wants to know that you really wanted to be there. So I think if you send an email and you don't hear back, like, try again, really show someone that you really are willing to try, and go for it, because that means a lot, because you will be tested. It is hard, and you might still not like it after a season, but just really showing the dedication and that you really do want to try means a lot. And I think that goes really far in this industry.
Yeah, it's hard work, and give it a good chance before you give up on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, most people, if you really want to do it, you can. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Frances. We really appreciate you being here and talking about this part of the industry. And it's a Bristol Bay fishing, people don't talk about a lot unless you're in it. So we're really happy that you were here and able to highlight that as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Of course. All right, next up, we're going to talk a little science. So a D, and I don't know that I've ever said your last name. Haneen?
Yeah, that's good.
All right. Research coordinator, University of Washington, and NOAA, which is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So who's NOAA and what do you do?
Yeah, so NOAA is a federal agency. We basically study the ocean, the weather, climate, the atmosphere to understand how it's changing, what it's like today, in order to conserve and be stewards of our coasts and our oceans as well. So that's it in a giant nutshell. We do everything from from space down to the bottom of the sea floor. And we're actually, when I say federal, yes, that means we're based in Washington, D.C., but we have offices all across the United States and the territories, including the largest one outside of D.C. is here in Seattle. What I specifically do is I went to college. I was a scientist specifically on shellfish by training, and then it wasn't really what I wanted to do. I wanted to interact more with people, working to explain science to people and to management, and incorporating science into decision making. So now I do science communication and outreach for a lab here in Seattle that's part of NOAA called the Pacific Marine Environmental Lab. My day-to-day is basically I just am continuing learning. The lab we do is the heavy focus on research and development, as well as climate and ecosystem changes. And so I basically talk to scientists all day, trying to understand what they're working on and then how to convey that to the public through social media, web stories. And then I also when pre-COVID, I do a lot of tours on campus, and also working on, things like science camps and trying to engage more students into the sciences. Similarly, I think is in maritime, especially in the oceanography and in the geosciences, it is still a very male-dominated field. So I've been working to encourage more women and girls to pursue STEM. It's a great opportunity, and yeah.
A little bit about, so I have two questions. One is about science and decision making. I love that statement. And then my second question is, talk a little bit about what geothermal oceanography is and oceanography is, as opposed to other things.
Yeah, those are good questions. So science and decision making is basically, like earlier we heard about, fishing and the best managed fisheries. And so going out to sea, at least on the ocean side, going out to sea, collecting data about things like ocean temperature, things like how many fish are there right now, what potentially diseases are we seeing, pollutants in the water, marine debris. And so there's a wide range of data that we can collect, and then basically taking all that data, putting it into a report that then others can use, whether it's federal government, whether it's state government, fishermen. So we have a lot of different, what we call stakeholders, so people who will use our data. And actually all of our data is public. So even schools and undergrads can use our data to look at what's changing in our oceans. And then your second question is, what is oceanography and ocean sciences and geosciences? So I would say mostly when I was in high school, big thing was like, I'm going to be a marine biologist. What that meant at the time, didn't really know. And so I went to school focusing on the marine side of things. I did marine biology, but then got a lot more interested in oceanography. So oceanography actually has a lot of components to it. You can be looking at the biological side. So fish, plankton, how food webs, how they all interact. You can look at chemical oceanography. So if you really love chemistry right now, you can look at how chemical changes. So things like carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, when it hits the water, there's a chemical reaction. And so we're trying to study that and understand how that reaction is going to have an impact on marine ecosystems, but also just how much of it is being absorbed in the ocean. And then you can also have physical oceanography. So if you love physics, learning about how maybe currents move in the ocean, how basically ocean heat moves around the water. The ocean doesn't stay still, right? It's not like something that happens potentially on the other side of the Pacific Ocean is just going to stay there. Ocean heat can move around with currents. And so there's a whole world looking at that. And we use a bunch of different technologies. And so there's also ocean engineering. And so using we go out on ships, but we're also deploying a lot of technologies because we can't study the global ocean easily. So we're trying to look at new technologies using satellites, using sensors on moored buoys, so things that are stationary, and then also free floating things out there. So a lot of oceanographers nowadays are also kind of engineers that they fell into it, and then also doing oceanography at the same time.
So with all that being said, what are some of the jobs?
Oh man, I even prepared for this. There are
good.
so many jobs. There's some things. So also NOAA has 16 of its own research vessels that we use to study the ocean. And there are jobs on there that are open for civilians. So just, you don't have to be a part of NOAA to be on it. And like things like being a cook, like why not be a chef and go out to sea? And I know that applies to other boats as well and other ships, but so you can have jobs on the boats. There's also people like me who do science communication. We've got scientists, we've got either weather folks. So I don't do anything weather and related, but we've got meteorologists. So the people who basically give you your daily weather. We also have engineers, IT. A big thing about what we have is data. And so looking into one, how to store all our data, but also how to use our data. So we have IT, but computer science folks, HR, we have lawyers. We also have officers, so like legal law enforcement, but not so much law. It's more about like fish and wildlife laws that we have. So I don't know, there's so much variety, and that's what I love talking about NOAA is all the different options. It's not just science. If you're interested in the marine or the atmosphere side of things, we've got something for you. Yeah. That's
cool. So how has your career, what's it like to be a woman in NOAA?
It's interesting. I mean, you meet a lot of other women nope, that's not right. You meet a lot of other women in your career, and I would definitely recommend for other women is like you build that community wherever you are, building that support for one another. It's definitely there's a lot of men in the higher level positions, but I've definitely been seeing it change. People are very receptive. We have more women leadership now than in the past, and it's definitely growing. I've definitely seen a lot more women in the sciences. It's just now kind of making sure that they continue on into the leadership positions.
So if you were to give a young person advice or someone and thinking about going to work for NOAA, what might you tell them?
Yeah, I would say it's two things. Do things like this, right? Keep going to one. That's the benefit I found of COVID and virtual events, right? You can go to a lot more of these things across the US as well. Keep going. Network with folks, meet folks, hear what they do. And then if you are looking at pursuing a bachelor's degree and going into undergrad and potentially graduate school, NOAA has partnerships with universities. And as Sarah mentioned, I'm off at the University of Washington, which is one of these partners. There's 16 of them called cooperative institutes, but there's also cooperative science centers that are even larger and have more affiliated universities. And so if you're interested in NOAA, I would say try to narrow down schools that have already built relationships with NOAA.
Yeah, there's actually, what am I thinking of? Sea Grant. So the Sea Grants are associated with all the different, or not all, but many of the universities. So UW, Texas A&M Galveston, I don't know the others, but several of them are connected. So those are cool too.
Yeah, and they offer a lot of opportunities also for high school students for ways to get more involved and network with marine scientists and other folks at the aquarium and in the community. It's not just always NOAA, but broader than that.
Well, cool. Well, thank you, Adi.
Thank you for having me.
See your face and hear your voice. I miss you. We'll see you soon. And up next, we have Tosca Pender, Maritime producer, ABD Insurance and Financial Services.
Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course. Tosca and I are on the board of the Seattle Propeller Club, and she will soon be co-president of the Propeller Club. So we're happy to have her to talk about what she does. And we were just recently talking about, you know, the twisty, turny kind of career, like when we start going through some of these questions, like focus a little bit on like you kind of were open to what showed up, you know? But first of all, what is ABD Insurance and Financial Services? What do they do for the maritime industry?
So ABD is an independent consulting firm, and we specialize in risk management, insurance brokerage, human resources, and retirement services. Specifically, what we do for maritime industry, our company specializes in 16 different industries, one of which is maritime. So our maritime team is located here in Seattle. So our client base is anywhere from tug and barge companies, terminal operators, passenger vessels, fishing vessels, shipyards, so many more. We have clients all over the maritime industry. So our role as a broker really is to work directly with our clients and help them put together their insurance program. So we'll look and evaluate their risk, what they do, what their operations look like, and partner with them in finding the best coverage that fits their unique needs.
So tell us about your job. Well, actually, tell us about your career. How did you get to where you are and your circuitous path?
Yeah, so I actually ended up at Cal Maritime, which is a maritime academy down in Vallejo, California. When I was in college, I had a friend who was going there and they told me all about how great it was and what the maritime industry was. So I ended up just transferring on a whim over to the school, and I ended up loving it. Where there I actually got involved with the student chapter, the Propeller Club, really began networking and figuring out what exactly this career, a career path in maritime would look like. I didn't get a degree to go to sea. I got a degree in international business and logistics. So I was always planning on being on the support/land side of the business. When I first got out of school, I started working in labor relations for a company called the Pacific Maritime Association. Did that for a couple of years, ended up in Seattle working for a tug and barge company, doing ship assist sales. So sales for their ship assist services here in the Puget Sound. And then really had a friend one day say, "Hey, have you ever thought of marine insurance?" And I was like, "No, tell me more." And I talked more with ABD and what they were all about. And so kind of in line with what Sarah was saying, just my career has been a path of following what was exciting next and being open to opportunities as they presented themselves. So, yeah.
So I have a couple of follow-up questions. So explain a little bit, like what labor relations, like who were the people that were working, like how are you representing them and what were they doing?
Great. So the Pacific Maritime Association represents shipping companies and terminal operators along the U.S. West Coast. They all collectively hire the ILWU, Longshoremen Union. So the association represents these companies as one voice in the administration of a bargaining agreement or a contract, a labor contract. So we would, as the association, we would negotiate with the union, manage the labor force, and represent basically the client's needs, the association member needs.
So my second question is, when you were working for the tugboat company, what does ship assist mean? What does that mean? What is that?
Great, that's a great question. So as many of you have probably seen in the Puget Sound or anywhere really, we have large ships that come in and out of port, large cargo ships, tankers, international trade of any sort. So tugboats are smaller, high horsepower vessels that actually help park these bigger vessels. So you'll see them coming in and out of the Port of Seattle, for example, and you'll see these two little smaller boats on each end of the container ships, and they help slow the ship down. They help the ship get it into the right position alongside the dock so that they can tie up.
Thanks. I think that was helpful.
Yeah.
So what types of skills and education do you feel like you needed to work at ABD and do maritime insurance?
Well, my background, I have an undergraduate degree and a master's degree. With that being said, to get into insurance, you don't necessarily need a degree. On our maritime team, what we find helpful is to have a background in the industry. So knowing what our clients do, they often say it's easier to teach insurance than learn the maritime industry. So one of the strong suits that I came into my ABD with was my knowledge and my network that I knew within the maritime industry. So I think having an understanding of how vessels operate or just the maritime industry in general will definitely give you a leg up to join ABD on our maritime team. But really just a desire to learn. If you like teamwork, if you like problem solving, we work really well as a tight team and we solve problems for clients every day. So those are two very important skills or attributes that we would want.
So what's it been like for you as a woman in this industry? I mean, you shifted into it at Cal Maritime and we're kind of like, oh, okay. And but what has it been like as you've gone through?
I've had several experiences where I've been the only woman in a room. I've been the only, younger person in a room, working alongside individuals who could have been my parents or grandparents, as far as their age. So definitely a twofold age and woman experience has been something that I got to step into, and I've never let that bother me. There's been times where I have felt discriminated against because of my gender, but I haven't let that stop me in pursuing the career I want in the maritime industry. There are plenty of spaces and places in this industry that welcome women with open arms. My company has been one of those. My mentor right now is a man. And so there is the support there in pockets. I can't speak for all places in the industry, but I have definitely had support as I've grown throughout the industry and in my career. The opportunities there if you're looking for it. I think one of the things that has benefited me the most is that I am eager to learn. And I know that even when I'm 80, I'm not going to stop learning. Even if you think you know everything, you're going to keep learning. And so for me, being eager, asking, seeking mentorship, I mentor myself, I mentor other people. So being eager to learn, being teachable has been one of the things that's really benefited me because people see my excitement and they see that I want to learn, and there are people that are willing to help and willing to teach if you're willing to learn. So.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, was about advice. And your energy is always infectious, Tosca. So I really appreciate you, and I thank you for being on this panel. And we will absolutely talk soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, and we'll have another panelist. Who is a human resource manager and Yuri Bersch, the safety, environmental, and HR at EFI Pacific Fisherman's Yard.
Hi,
Right.
Sarah.
What is Packfish?
Thank you for having me. Pacific Fisherman is a full-service shipyard in Ballard. We are on the Salmon Bay Ship Canal just south of the Ballard Locks. So we specialize in really servicing passenger cruise vessels, charter boats, yachts, tugboats, as well as fishing vessels. We can trace our roots back 145 years as a shipyard in Seattle in 1871. It was founded by a Norwegian immigrant, T.W. Lake, during World War II. Packfish built minesweepers, subchasers. A couple of vessels later became Jacques Cousteau's vessel Calypso, and also John Wayne's yacht, the Wild Goose. And then about 1946, about 400 group of Norwegian heritage fishermen and their wives co-opted the shipyard, and so we incorporated then as Pacific Fishermen. So we've had quite a history.
Yeah, I love all the, you guys have got great videos and stuff on your website. For the history of the ship.
The history of the ship.
So we do, and we actually try to keep the history of Ballard alive too. We, as the businesses unfortunately are changing and closing, we bring in the signs and put them up, so we keep that history alive.
So tell us about your job. What does your day look like?
About your job. What does your day look like?
Well, I do safety, environmental, and HR. So really, as far as HR, I recruit, I select, train, and we have union and non-union people. Safety, environmental, I identify and develop the different programs so that we're applying with all the safety and health and environmental regulations. We deal with OSHA, DOSH, the EPA, the DOE, the DOT, Seattle Fire Department. Lots of regulations, insurance. It's really a varied, widely varied job, a lot of different responsibilities.
That's a lot to keep track of.
That's a lot to keep track of.
It is and challenging, and I enjoy it greatly. Yeah.
So how did you get into your career?
Well, actually, I was looking for an office job, and I had thought of going to college to become a lawyer. I had that in mind. And I applied to different places, and I went to Marco Shipyard in 1988 and started as an administrative assistant. They hired me. I didn't know a thing. My position grew and changed so fast that by 1994, I became a human resource manager, and then kind of fell into the safety environmental. After Marco closed in 2005, I came to Pacific Fisherman. So it's a career that I fell into, and it's been great.
So what are the jobs? What are the list of all the jobs at Pacific Fisherman Shipyard?
Well, we have the majority of people, obviously, in the art or union, and we have boilermakers and laborers. There are also our painters, shipwrights, or marine carpenters, machinists, and we also have marine electricians. So we have 5 different unions that we work with.
Can you explain what a boilermaker is?
Can you explain what a boilermaker is?
Well, a boilermaker is a welder or a ship fitter or a pipe fitter. So they do the work on the vessel.
So we didn't explain what a ship fitter was. A pipe fitter is
what a ship fitter was. A pipe fitter is.
Go ahead.
A pipe fitter, they work on pipe and connecting the systems. The shitters fit the plates together for repair, and then the welders, of course, do the welding. So they work as a team to repair the steel portions of the vessel.
So what are the kind of attributes or skills that you're looking for in a good
we're a union shop, so I think the crafts need more people. There is not quite enough boilermakers or machinists, and it's a very skilled trade, so difficult to fill the positions since we share the union people amongst the different ships.
So how if they wanted a job back fish, how would they do that?
The best thing to do is to contact Pacific Fishermen, ask for human resources, and then it depends on the interest and the skill level. I would probably direct them to contact the union. There are apprenticeship programs to get into, which is great. I think we do also hire people that are not union. If the union can't fulfill our needs in 24 hours, we can hire people who are maybe have a little skill or are very, interested and good workers, bring them in to do the entry-level positions, helper or mechanic.
So what advice would you give someone if they're working in a shipyard?
What, I'm sorry, you were breaking, I guess.
What advice would you give someone if they wanted to work in a shipyard?
I would say contact one of the local shipyards, reach out to them first, find out if they're hiring, whether they have any entry-level positions, and then if not, they can contact one of the unions that we're affiliated with, and they have an out-of-work list is what they have, and you pay a nominal fee monthly. And as the shipyards call in and need additional people, they dispatch from that list. And so that's a good thing to do.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Yuri. We really appreciate you representing the small shipyard industry. What's going on over there?
Oh, you're welcome.
What's going on over there?
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you. So
Bye-bye.
our next panelist is TJ Ewing. He is the head of talent at Pure Watercraft. So what is Pure Watercraft?
Hi, Sarah, and thanks for having me. It's been great to listen to the program so far. Pure Watercraft is we still call ourselves a startup, even though we've been around for about 8 years, but we're a startup company in Seattle. We're really a mission-driven company, and we're trying to change the boating experience so it's more enjoyable, accessible, and environmentally friendly for users. We're a pre-launch company. We aim to launch our first product in 2021. This first product is called Pure Outboard, and it's an all-electric outboard motor system. And so the system really simplifies the experience of owning and operating a boat. So you can get on the water, there's no fumes, no noise, and no required maintenance. And the aim is really to replace these traditional dirty combustion outboard motors, in a fairly straightforward way. If you replace the combustion motor with our electric motor, it fits on standard outboard brackets on boats. Take the fuel tank, the gas fuel tank off, and put our battery pack on, and then our throttle ties it all together, and you're off and running. It's really designed for a boat that uses anywhere between a 20 and say 50, 60 horsepower application, and delivers a higher performance and lower overall cost of ownership than traditional outboards. And our primary markets we're going after are initially aimed at recreation markets, so like pontoon boats, rigid inflatable boats, say tenders or some utility boats, fishing boats, and the rental boat market.
Cool. So when you started talking, I realized that you guys had been in the Maritime Blue Innovation Incubator
Program. That's right. Yep.
Cool.
Very great program.
So all electric outboards. So what do you do in the company, and what does a day look like for you?
Yep. So I'm head of talent. We're just under 40 people total company, so we're a relatively small group. And as head of talent, you can the traditional activities that put under the umbrella of HR, so talent acquisition, recruitment, talent management, organizational development. Right, we're a fast scaling company, so there's laying in place how we're actually going to grow, find resources, and then organize ourselves. But also being a small team and a startup, people wear many hats, and part of our culture is, we do go to where the problems and challenges face us. We go to those. So I've certainly worn hats that are very operational. I have a business mindset, business background, engineering background. So, where I can, I add value on any area. And I basically kind of call myself a catalyst. I'm trying to get us faster down our plan of launch so we can realize our business aims and get this new technology into the hands of boat owners.
So where are these? So are you still working on the technology, or are you in the manufacturing phase, and that, like, someone could pre-order or?
Yep. Good question. So we do pre-orders. We're in the beta phase. So the design of the technology is mostly complete. What we're doing is working through validation and testing ahead of our launch next year. But we've had test units out in the wild. We had some units down in Georgia with professional fishermen, bass fishermen that do all electric tournaments. We've had test systems with University of Washington Rowing Club for their rowing coaching launch. We've had test systems on pontoon boats. We operated a pontoon sort of club, a test club all summer, last 2 summers on Lake Union. So people may have seen our pure watercraft pontoon with our electric motor bopping around. And so we're in that phase where we're just, again, trying to finalize the technology, validate it, and then get it into the market. So we're at that pivot point of moving into manufacturing. We can do low prototype one-off, but that's part of our thread as well, as we're increasing our manufacturing capabilities.
So what jobs do you have now, and what jobs do you feel like as you start production are you going to need?
Yeah, so now currently right now we have a couple engineering positions open. So mechanical engineers and test engineering are the 2 primary ones in the short term. As we enter into 2021 and start ramping up production as well, we just received funding in our Series A funding round, $23 million a few weeks ago. So with that tailwind and moving towards launch, we're also at a pivot point of scaling the organization. So it's not just the technical roles. We'll be adding some more mechanical, electrical, software, firmware design engineers as we finish this product, and then also look at future products. But really, where a lot of the majority of roles as we look to scale will be in 2 areas: manufacturing, and that will consist of technicians, assembly technicians, electronic technicians, engineering technicians, as well as manufacturing engineers. And then the other area is really our go-to-market side. So as we launch our product, we're going to be building up sales, service, so field technicians, as well as marketing, and then some on the admin side, but primarily manufacturing and go-to-market.
Okay, so you're launching in 2021, the actual motor. So you're going to be needing manufacturing and sales and service, all kinds of great stuff. So with being a small startup company and knowing that you have to ramp up, what kind of skills or attributes would you be looking for in people that would be working for Pure Watercraft?
Yeah, I look at skills in sort of 2 buckets. There's the hard skills, right? If you're an engineer, what's your engineering background? If you're a technician, what have you done? There's some hard skills that we would look at, and those fall, generally in the role itself. Actually, for us, where we are, just as important as the hard skills are the soft skills. A startup environment, I tell a lot of people who've applied to our company, it's not often where you join a company that's pre-launch, pre-funding at the time, although we have some funding now, but pre-funding, startup, that is still working through a product concept. It's a different dynamic than an established company who has their markets and has evolved. So, and as I said, you sort of wear a lot of hats. So if you're coming in looking for, okay, this is my job and this is all I do, this is the environment that's not quite ready for that. And so we look for people that are adaptable, are willing to experiment. We do like people to come in and have a voice, right? What's your opinion? So we try to, encourage participatory work, because there's so many problems to solve, and we need good ideas. and people who are actively listening and can engage in that back and forth quickly, so we can make decisions and move fast as a company. So it's definitely a dynamic environment. It's not a traditional environment that people who've worked at larger companies may have seen, but you know, it can be a little messy, but it's certainly a lot of fun.
What advice would you give people? I mean, with you guys, you know, I don't know if you were one of the people that came up with this idea, or like, what advice would you give someone that's A, going to be in a startup, B, has a great idea and wants to do something like this, where they're like, you know, what is mine to do? And I've got this great idea, and what do you do and how do you do it?
Yeah, I think, well, trying to unpack that question, there's a couple things. You know, if someone's looking to start a company, that, you know, that's a you know, a very unique endeavor. My hat's off to entrepreneurs out there who have that passion, and you know, it takes a lot of dedication to see that through, and actually a little bit of luck too. But you know, I think in general, to me, it's like, you know, what is your story? Like and I appreciated Delmas Whitaker's comments, right, and sort of having a plan and executing on that plan when he talked earlier. You know, to me, it's like, you know, what is your story? And to me, when I think about career management, and we all own our own careers, it's about what fit are you creating for yourself? You know, how do you find fit? Fit is so important to me, both for the company when we're bringing people in, but also for you as you're choosing a company. Right. One of the things I really appreciate when people apply to us is they interview us just as much as we interview them, because it shows that they have this mindset of, you know, I have an intent, I'm trying to find fit here as well. This may or may not be the right place for me, but I have a process I'm going through. So, and to me, that process starts with a story, right? What is your career story? And how are you painting that picture for yourself as you go forward? And how does any particular role fit into that story? And if you don't have one, you know, start thinking about, what is your story? What's the trajectory? What do you really want to do in your career trajectory? And even if you haven't started on that path, you can still have a vision for it. And if you do have your story, it's something to keep evolving, right? It doesn't stay stagnant. And use that story to help you focus on what companies to apply and what positions to look for. And be relentless about that. You know, looking for a job is a job in itself, and so treat it as such. And it's not easy, right? There's a lot of rejections, but you know, I suggest, you know, I always say it's about fit, right? You typically know something that is right for you, and you know, trust yourself and rely on that inner compass. And you know, it's hard for companies too to find that right fit, and that's all it is. And if you you know, go through that process and have a lot of rejection, it's okay. It's not about you. You know, most of the times it's not about you, it's about the fit. And so, you know, keep your confidence level high, even through the headwinds that you face when looking for a job.
Yeah, you know, when I mentor young people or talk to people who are, you know, looking for a job or whatever, I definitely talk about fit, and when you go into an interview, like researching the company, and like you said, interviewing them and saying, well, I've got these questions, and like you said, is this the right fit for me and my personality and how I like to work and the boss that you're going to end up working with. So when I was younger, I used to go in and do interviews, and I would never ask questions. I'd be like, yeah, I'm fine. And now that I'm older, I'm like, I need some time for some questions. So I think it's really great that you have that perspective.
Well, one of the things we do is we ask our applicants when they come into the interview process is to give a 30-minute presentation.
Oh,
and
nice.
It's their agenda, right? We don't tell them what to present. They can present, because a lot of times what happens when you go through the interview process is you don't, like you mentioned, you don't have that opportunity to sort of ask questions. And we use this time when we tell them ahead of time, this is for you to highlight what you really feel you want to highlight, right? What's the aspect of your story that you're bringing to our table, so we don't miss it? Because sometimes in interviews or one-on-ones, someone has an agenda, which isn't typically the applicant. You know, they want to ask all these questions to check all these boxes. And, you know, this gives at least that applicant a time for them to say, I don't want you to miss these things. So again, back to the story, know your story, make sure people don't miss it, and that'll service people well, I think.
I love it. Well, I want to say congratulations on your funding. Good luck. And we look forward to seeing your product out there tootling around in the lake.
Yep, purewatercraft.com. That's also where you can find our careers openings on that page as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, TJ.
Yep, thanks, Sarah.
All right. And our final panelist is Kelly Merrill. She is the Senior HR Business Partner for Foss Maritime. Hi, Kelly.
Hi there. Thanks for having me. I'm trying to start my video here.
That's okay. So tell us about Foss and all the things that it does.
So Foss is a marine transportation provider. We've been in business since 1889, and it was started by Thea Foss in Tacoma. And she started with one rowboat back then, and since then we've expanded into many different services in the marine industry. We do have a full service shipyard in Ballard on the Ballard Ship Canal. We also provide naval architecture and engineering services, harbor ship assist up and down the West Coast. So we've got locations in Southern California, Northern California, the Columbia Snake River region, as well as here in the Puget Sound and in Alaska. We have sister companies in Hawaii and Alaska. And then we also have marine transportation and logistics services where we can handle projects of any type over the water all around the world.
Cool. So with all those different pieces, parts, and different companies and all that stuff, tell us about some of the jobs that are available with Foss.
Well, all kinds. So yeah, at our shipyard, we mostly represent, or most of our jobs at our shipyard are union positions in the construction trade. So very similar to what Sherry mentioned, welders, pipe fitters, electricians, carpenters, working on maintenance and repair of the vessels. And we've even done some new construction projects. We also have marine positions. So anything from ordinary seamen and able seamen and deckhands, engineers, and of course, wheelhouse deck officers, captains and mates. And then many shoreside jobs. We have a corporate office here in Seattle. So a lot of administrative support positions in our accounting departments, and human resources, of course, and naval architecture.
Cool. So how did you get to Foss? Like, well, how did your career, how did you get where you're at?
Well, I got my feet wet in HR working actually in hospitality in sports stadiums. And I was really house pipe HR, and I didn't learn that term until I worked in the maritime industry. But I worked my way up, and I actually started sweeping the floors and washing dishes. And in my role, I had to train in every single position in the company that we were recruiting for so that I could help recruit and train employees in those positions. Back then I grew up in Colorado, so tugboats were like unicorns and I didn't know a lot about maritime careers, but I had the opportunity to move to Seattle in 2008 to work at CenturyLink Field. And it was really fun to see the green and white tugboats on Elliott Bay. And I met my husband on a boat in Lake Washington. So it was fun to go up and down the Ballard Ship Canal and see the fascinating things they were doing at the Foss shipyard. And then one day, out of the blue, I got a phone call and was fortunate when they called me about an HR opportunity.
Cool. Yeah, I worked for Foss for a while myself, for I think 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Cool. So what kind of people, with all those different, with naval architecture and multiple tugboat companies and shipyards, what are some of the skills or the attributes that Foss is looking for?
Well, we definitely like candidates who have some maritime experience, but it's not a prerequisite. We would like you to come in with the training and experience that meet minimum requirements of the job. So when you're looking at a job description on a website, you know, review what those minimum requirements are and hope to have those out of the way. But really, as long as we have individuals that share our same values, we can also help with some training and certifications along the way. So we look for people that, you know, have integrity and care about safety, and also have, you know, want to work at a quality workplace and seek continuous improvement in the projects that they're working on.
So what advice would you give someone who wants to get involved in shipyards or out at sea?
I would definitely be flexible and open to different training opportunities, and, you know, keep the door open. Network with people in the industry, whether it's following blogs or following companies on social media. Also be sure that your resume is up to date, especially with any achievements or training that you're completing along the way. Again, especially if it's part of the criteria for minimum requirements of the jobs you're seeking. Again, most of our positions are union, and so as many of the other panelists mentioned, it's a great idea to familiarize yourself with the local unions that represent your type of position that's being recruited for, and they can help assist with job placement and also provide some additional required debt. Definitely follow companies that you want to work for on social media. On the Foss careers page, you can sign up for career alerts, so you can specify the types of jobs that you're looking for. And if you register with our website, you'll be alerted as soon as a job's posted, and you can apply right away.
Cool. I just posted the careers.foss.com in the chat for people. It shows all kinds of good stuff. So, well, thank you very much for being on the panel and telling us about Foss Maritime. It has such a great history in the Pacific Northwest, and continues to be a powerhouse in tugboats and in naval architecture and all that stuff. Oh, I have one question. So being a part of the Foss family always also puts you into the Salt Chuck family. So explain a little bit about how Salt Chuck and being in the Foss family kind of help you branch out into the other companies. So you know what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah. So yeah, Salt Chuck is our parent organization. They have a family of transportation and logistics companies. So we have, you know, Foss has a close relationship with several other, both maritime, basically land, sea, and air companies that provide transportation services. So it's great to partner with them on projects, whether it's tote, maritime, and, you know, their cargo shipping, or, you know, any of the other companies that were providing logistics and transportation solutions around the world. So it's great to have the backing and leverage of a larger organization as a whole, and to be open to those other opportunities in the services that we can provide.
Yeah, I was just looking at the website really quick, and it's got like marine services, which are tugboats and container ships and air cargo and energy distribution, so like fuel and logistics and international shipping. So you know, it's great to be a part of a company like at Foss or whatever that also has a parent company that there's additional opportunities. So it's neat.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much, Kelly. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And our final speaker today is going to talk about training resources. She is a friend and a colleague of mine who I appreciate very much. Ann Avery, she is the director of the Center of Excellence for Marine Manufacturing and Technology. I think that is even more a mouthful than my title, but she's going to talk about a bunch of the training opportunities. So if any of these speakers and like it sparked your want to know more or to possibly get some education in the marine or maritime, sorry, I just lost my, boom, maritime industry, she's going to help you figure out how you can get some education and some information about that. So welcome, Ann.
Thanks, Sarah. May I share the PowerPoint?
Sure.
Okay, let me see if I can do that successfully. All right, can you see that?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, hi everybody, and thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. I'm excited to share some resources with you, training resources with you about the maritime industry, maybe. I might need help forwarding slides. Oh, actually, I got it. All right. Okay, that's good. So in the few minutes that we have together today, I'm going to provide a really high level overview and focus more on afloat and ashore careers and the public sector and apprenticeship. It's not that we don't work with all of the other elements of the industry and nonprofit and private education providers, because we do, but we've got a limited amount of time, and I just want to give you a sample of some of the resources that are available to you. So we'll show one career pathway slide, some resource and information links. And as Sarah said, I'm director for the Center of Excellence, and that is a mouthful. But briefly, the center's mission is to support the maritime workforce of Washington State. We're funded through the State Board for Community and Technical Colleges, and we accomplish our work by working directly with industry, with labor, K-12 and post-secondary education, legislators, government agencies, and other stakeholders within Washington State and outside of Washington State. So in one word, our work is workforce. That's what we're about. This is one of the many career path samples that we've been developing with our partners. This is a career path slide highlighting shipbuilding and ship repair on the West Coast, and we do a lot of that in Washington State. And I won't spend a lot of time on the slide, but you can see from high school, you could take a couple of paths. You can go to a technical school or community or technical college. You can go to university. You can go into apprenticeship. But the purpose of this is to demonstrate or illustrate that there really are pathways for multiple careers within the maritime industry. And we have other pathway maps for underway careers, careers in logistics and maritime, multiple career opportunities. But I wanted to highlight this, this particular career map. Okay. I really loved what all of the prior speakers said. I mean, you all set the table really for what I'm talking to you about right now. There are multiple training pathways to maritime careers. And I think the good news is that you don't have to leave Washington State to access and receive outstanding training. We're so fortunate to have a diverse educational system that supports the maritime industry in the state. You don't have to enroll in a maritime specific program to enter the industry. This may be critically important now because we're dealing with COVID. And you don't have to enroll in a 2 or 4 year degree program. Many students, or if you're a career changer or just starting on your career pathway, many people don't want to commit to a 2-year program, much less a 4-year program. They want to get into a program, get the skill set they need, get in and get out as quickly as possible, And we all know that that's for various reasons. Maybe you have to support yourself, you've got a family to support, or you just don't want to be in school any longer than you absolutely have to. So across the state, there are a number of non-maritime specific programs that align with the industry in multiple areas: culinary, crane operations, safety, heating and air conditioning, refrigeration, diesel. All of these areas and more, this is just a short list, but all of these areas and more can lead you to a very robust and long-term, very sustainable career in the maritime industry. So if you're in Eastern Washington and you want to become a welder in the maritime industry, you can take advantage of the welding programs on the east side of the state. There will be a pathway for you to the maritime industry, especially if you focus on aluminum welding, which is a very, very, very high demand skill set right now. If you decide that you want to enter a maritime specific program, what can you learn and earn? And in this case, earn what kind of credential or certificate can you earn? We know that this industry pays very well. Sarah said that at the top of the workshop. We're a very competitive industry. I believe economically we're the third largest industry in Washington state. We have some outstanding public programs in the state where you can enroll in maritime specific training focused on engineering technology, deck technology, electronics, which has a very strong IT component or backbone, marine electrical, diving, metal trades, propulsion. I love TJ's presentation around new propulsion technologies, and that leads to new battery technologies. That's an area within the industry that is absolutely exploding and growing at a very accelerated pace. Getting contextualized training in these areas will certainly help make you more marketable, more competitive, and enter at a higher hourly rate in the industry. I think one of the great things about the training programs in Washington state are the flexibility of the programs. You can earn a certification or a credential in less than 1 year, in some cases in as few as 6 weeks. You can earn a 1-year certificate, you can earn a 2-year degree. And clearly, I didn't focus on the 4-year part, but that pathway goes to the 4-year degree if that's what you choose to do. And finally, there are a number of third-party certificates and credentials you can earn in various areas. And this is just a short list: electronics, propulsion, safety, and operations. And the center works with standards organizations nationally and internationally to help bring some of those opportunities into the states, not just for students and apprentices, but for folks that are in the industry now. So for professional development purposes as well. So this is a short list, and we have the full list, and I'm happy to share that with you. But I wanted to focus on 3 programs and a little bit about apprenticeship today. So in the public system, in the community and technical college system, we're so fortunate to have Seattle Maritime Academy, which is located at Seattle Central College. That is an outstanding program preparing people for underway careers. Seattle Central also hosts a boat building and repair program at the Wood Technology Center, preparing people, technicians for shoreside careers predominantly. And then at Skagit Valley College, we have the Marine Maintenance Technology program, which again prepares technicians primarily for shoreside careers, the recreational side of the industry, small commercial, heavy commercial, commercial seafood, commercial fishing, and seafood processing. So to varying degrees, all of these programs serve the industry. We don't have time to do a deep dive into all of the other programs, but we do have a complete listing of those programs. And I'd also like to highlight apprenticeship. We have a very robust and diverse apprenticeship infrastructure in the state of Washington, one of the best in the United States, in fact. And there's been a lot of discussion today about pipe fitters and boiler makers. And those are just two of the apprenticeship pathways that someone can access for a career in the marine trades, as well as welding, painting, refrigeration, coatings. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And so these are just examples of the very deep resources we have in the state to serve the industry. And finally, just a few examples of some of the resources we have. And I'll start from the bottom up with MARAD, the Maritime Administration. That's a great resource for people who want to learn about the industry, learn about training programs in the industry. Sarah and I happen to be leading an effort for our state to apply for and receive a designation as a domestic maritime center of excellence, which will mean even more support for workforce development in the maritime industry. And we're super excited to be part of that initiative and be leading it. Again, we have a very robust apprenticeship community in the state. And I think everybody will have access to this PowerPoint, but there is the website for anyone who wants to learn more about apprenticeship, what the programs are, what the requirements are, how to apply to become an apprentice. Career Bridge is a great tool. If you're not sure what you want to do and you're trying to figure it out, it's a great exploratory tool. Build Your Future is the group that we've been working with in developing our career pathway maps. The Youth Maritime Collaborative is an excellent organization really focused on serving youth and youth from all communities. That's critically important as we grow the workforce out. And then finally, WashingtonMaritimeCareers.org, which is the official website for the Center of Excellence. And that's launching January 2021, so just a couple of short months from now. It will be both in English and Spanish language, because this has come up a couple of times regarding who our communities are that comprise the workforce of the maritime industry. And our workforce demographic in Washington and nationally is changing very rapidly. And many of you have said earlier in the presentation that you've got an aging workforce and the need to reach out to not just women and veterans, but underserved and underrepresented communities. This is the workforce of now, and it's the workforce of the future. So beginning to have our site in other languages beyond English, I think will be critical to those efforts. Now that's a lot of information in a very short span of time, but I'm always happy to respond to your questions for resource information, to connect you with the resource you need, and my contact information is there. I know that was a pretty quick overview, but I really appreciate the opportunity to share that with everybody.
Thanks, Ann. I really appreciate the overview of all the education. And, one of the things of hearing from all the panelists is I wrote down some things that I felt like were common to all. And I just want to highlight that maritime jobs in the Pacific Northwest are higher paid by almost $20,000 than the rest of Washington jobs. They have an aging workforce, which means that most of those folks are over 55, and so they're going to retire. So there's great opportunities in the maritime industry for you to get in, to get promoted, when you have the sea time or the experience and the education and be ready for those promotions. So fantastic opportunities. And what people are looking for are folks who are willing to learn, ready to work hard, people that can be flexible, adaptable, willing to do what it takes, whatever it takes to be done, that have integrity, that are safe and want to be safe and want their other folks to be safe. and open to training opportunities, because that's in the maritime industry, you're always learning. And so if you are somebody who really wants to do that, please choose this. Please do some more research. I'd like to thank Anne and all the other amazing speakers today. I want to thank you for taking the time to join. Special thanks to the Seattle Propeller Club, the Port of Seattle, Washington Maritime Blue, Youth Maritime Collaborative, and their members, Seattle Maritime Business Coalition, the North Seattle Industrial Association, Marine Manufacturing and Technology Center of Excellence, Skagit Valley College, National Fisherman Magazine, and the Pacific Marine Expo. So we are so grateful that you were here. This concludes our program today, and we look forward to having you in the maritime industry. See you soon.